Watch till the end. Rob Lilwall had always been fascinated by the unknown. Growing up in the UK, he devoured stories of explorers who challenged the limits of human endurance. The idea of setting out on a journey that would test both his body and mind ignited a fire within him. Unlike many travelers who preferred the comfort of guided tours or established trails, Rob craved raw, unfiltered experiences. His plan was audacious: to walk over 3,500 miles from the vast steppes of Mongolia to the bustling metropolis of Hong Kong, crossing deserts, mountains, and remote villages, relying almost entirely on his own resourcefulness. Before leaving, Rob spent months preparing. Physical training was rigorous. He ran long distances with a heavy backpack to simulate the strain of days on end walking across harsh terrain. He studied maps, learned essential survival skills, and even researched local languages and customs along the route. Despite this preparation, he knew that the true challenge would come from the unpredictable nature of the journey. Mongolia's harsh winters, sudden sandstorms, and the remoteness of many villages meant that he could not rely on the safety nets modern travelers often take for granted. This was not just a journey, it was a test of willpower, patience, and mental resilience. When the day of departure finally arrived, friends and family gathered to see him off. The farewell was bittersweet. While they admired his courage, they also feared for his safety. Yet, Rob's mind was singularly focused. He felt the pull of adventure stronger than any doubt. With his backpack secured, boots laced tightly, and journal in hand, he stepped onto the Mongolian steppe, leaving behind the familiar comforts of home. The first days were grueling. The sheer emptiness of the landscape, punctuated only by the distant shapes of grazing livestock and the occasional herder's yurt, was both humbling and terrifying. The silence of the vast plains was broken only by the wind and the rhythmic crunch of his boots on the earth. Every step was a reminder that he was utterly alone in a land that could easily overwhelm even the most seasoned traveler. Survival quickly became a matter of improvisation. Water sources were scarce, and food was limited to what he could carry or barter with local villagers. The Mongolian nomads, curious and hospitable, offered shelter and shared traditional meals of mutton and dairy, teaching Rob lessons about gratitude, humility, and the strength of human kindness. Each interaction reinforced a truth he had long understood: adventure was as much about the people you meet as the landscapes you traverse. But it wasn't all positive. Sandstorms whipped across the plains, leaving him disoriented and exhausted. Nights were bitterly cold, and Rob often questioned whether he had the strength to continue. It was in these moments of doubt that his mental endurance was truly tested. Drawing on his training and inner resolve, he reminded himself that discomfort was temporary, but the fulfillment of completing this journey could last a lifetime. As the days turned into weeks, Rob's body began to adapt. Blisters hardened into callus, his legs grew stronger, and his ability to navigate the terrain improved. He developed routines that helped conserve energy, rationing food and water, planning rest periods, and reading the stars to navigate when maps were unreliable. Each night, he documented his experiences, reflections, and insights in his journal. These writings became a lifeline, a way to process the physical strain and emotional highs and lows of solitary travel. Through writing, Rob learned to appreciate the smallest victories: finding a hidden spring, receiving a warm meal from a stranger, or reaching the top of a hill to see the horizon stretch endlessly ahead. Crossing the Mongolian-Chinese border marked a turning point in his journey. Suddenly, the terrain shifted dramatically. Rolling plains gave way to rugged mountains, rivers, and increasingly dense forests. The isolation persisted, but with it came new challenges: unfamiliar customs, language barriers, and the need to navigate more populated areas without losing the sense of adventure that had carried him so far. The first interactions with Chinese villagers were cautious. Rob often relied on gestures and smiles, finding that genuine effort and respect transcended language. Slowly, bonds formed. People offered directions, shelter, or food, and these acts of kindness reminded him of the universal human connection that exists across cultures. By the end of the first part of his journey, Rob had walked hundreds of miles, faced unforeseen dangers, and encountered the generosity and resilience of people in the remotest regions of Asia. The physical scars, blisters, bruises, and sunburn were trivial compared to the mental and emotional growth he experienced. Each obstacle overcome strengthened his determination to continue. The journey was not merely about reaching Hong Kong, it was a profound exploration of human potential, endurance, and the limitless possibilities that unfold when one steps beyond comfort and into the unknown. As Rob continued deeper into China, the terrain transformed into a relentless series of obstacles. The wide-open steppes of Mongolia had already tested his endurance, but now the journey demanded more than physical stamina, it challenged his spirit and his very identity as an explorer. Mountains loomed ahead, their jagged peaks casting long shadows over narrow valleys, while rivers cut paths through the land with unpredictable currents. Crossing each segment required careful planning, precise navigation, and a constant readiness to adapt to unexpected difficulties. Weather became an ever-present adversary. Summer heat scorched his skin and drained his energy, leaving him exhausted after only a few miles. Thunderstorms would roll in without warning, drenching him in icy rain that seeped through his layers, chilling him to the bone. Nights were bitterly cold at high altitudes, and Rob had to improvise shelters from tarps, stones, and whatever natural resources he could find. Sleep often came in short bursts, interrupted by the sounds of wildlife or the anxiety of uncertain terrain. Despite the physical toll, Rob maintained a sense of purpose. Each step brought him closer to his goal, and he reminded himself that the hardship was temporary, while the story he was creating would last a lifetime. Food and water became critical challenges. Villages were sparse, and when they appeared, communication was difficult. Rob often relied on basic gestures, drawings, or a few words of Mandarin to explain his needs. In remote areas, he sometimes went days with only a handful of snacks or water-purifying tablets, learning to ration supplies and trust his instincts. Hunger and fatigue sharpened his awareness of his surroundings, forcing him to move deliberately and think creatively about survival. Yet even in these moments of scarcity, he encountered unexpected generosity. Strangers offered rice, bread, or a place to rest, and these small acts reminded him that kindness could be found in the most isolated corners of the world. The physical strain was relentless. Rob's feet, encased in worn-out boots, bore the weight of thousands of miles of walking. Blisters merged into raw patches of skin, muscles ached constantly, and his back felt the strain of carrying a heavy backpack over rocky paths and uneven terrain. But the human body is capable of remarkable adaptation. Over time, Rob learned to pace himself, to recognize signs of fatigue before they became dangerous, and to use the rhythm of walking as a form of meditation. This discipline became a central part of his journey. Endurance was no longer just about moving forward, it was about sustaining focus, managing energy, and finding balance between pushing hard and resting wisely. Amid the hardships, Rob discovered the emotional depth of solitude. Days passed without seeing another human being, and the vast landscapes amplified both the beauty and the isolation of the journey. He confronted doubts, fears, and moments of loneliness that could have broken a lesser spirit. Yet these moments also cultivated resilience. By facing discomfort head-on, he developed a confidence that transcended the physical. He could rely on his mind and instincts, trust in his preparation, and maintain hope even when the path forward seemed impossible. Encounters with local people continued to enrich his journey. In one remote village, an elderly man offered Rob tea and shared stories of historical travels across the region. In another, a family insisted he sleep indoors, even though their home was small and crowded. These interactions were more than just practical, they were lessons in humility, empathy, and cultural understanding. Rob came to see that a journey was not merely about achieving a goal but about connecting with the world in a meaningful way, appreciating the diversity of human experiences, and learning from every individual he met along the path. Crossing rivers and climbing mountain passes became symbolic tests of his resolve. He learned to navigate treacherous waters using basic tools, to find safe passages through cliffs, and to endure hours of grueling ascent without complaint. The mountains were unforgiving, yet each summit brought breathtaking vistas that reminded him why he had embarked on this journey. Standing atop a ridge, looking out over valleys that stretched endlessly into the horizon, Rob felt a sense of awe and clarity that no ordinary experience could replicate. He realized that the greatest reward of his journey was not the destination itself but the transformation that came from embracing challenges fully and without hesitation. By the midpoint of his trek, Rob had experienced exhaustion, hunger, and isolation in ways that few could imagine. Yet he also found strength, creativity, and profound human connection. His journal overflowed with reflections on perseverance, gratitude, and the limitless potential of the human spirit when one refuses to give up. Each day reinforced a critical truth: while the body is finite, the mind can expand to meet challenges beyond what is expected. Rob's journey through the wild, harsh landscapes of central China was a testament to courage, endurance, and the extraordinary rewards of stepping into the unknown. The final stage of Rob Lilwall's journey brought a mix of anticipation, exhaustion, and exhilaration. After months of walking across some of the most challenging terrains on Earth, the bustling cities of southern China and finally the towering skyline of Hong Kong were in sight. But the final miles were far from easy. The contrast between the remote wilderness he had traversed and the densely populated urban landscapes was stark. Traffic, noise, and crowds posed new challenges, and the physical strain accumulated over months of relentless walking weighed heavily on his body. Yet with every step, Rob was fueled by the knowledge that he was nearing the culmination of a journey few could imagine attempting. Navigating through small towns and cities required adjustments. Walking along busy streets, dealing with crowded public transport areas, and negotiating language barriers tested Rob in ways that the open landscapes had not. The urban environment demanded vigilance and patience, reminding him that adventure was not only about conquering nature but also adapting to human environments. The simplicity of life on the steppe was replaced with constant stimuli: the sounds of traffic, the smells of street markets, and the sheer density of people moving in every direction. At first, this was overwhelming, but Rob quickly found ways to adapt. He focused on routines, maintained his walking schedule, and preserved his mental focus, proving that resilience is just as necessary in cities as it is in the wilderness. As he approached Hong Kong, the journey's cumulative impact became profoundly clear. Physically, Rob's body bore the marks of endurance: hardened feet, aching muscles, and a stamina forged from thousands of miles. Mentally, he had grown stronger, more self-aware, and deeply appreciative of the strength of human spirit. Months of solitude had sharpened his mind, honed his problem-solving abilities, and taught him patience, gratitude, and humility. His journal was filled with reflections on the kindness of strangers, the lessons of hardship, and the beauty of landscapes that few had ever witnessed firsthand. Every challenge overcome had reinforced an essential truth: the limits we perceive are often self-imposed, and courage is born when we confront the unknown head-on. The final kilometers were symbolic and emotionally charged. Locals and friends he had contacted along the route began to gather, celebrating his perseverance and the story he had created. Cameras and reporters documented his arrival, but for Rob, the significance went beyond recognition. It was the realization that the journey had transformed him. The sense of accomplishment was immense, not merely because he had completed a physical challenge, but because he had learned invaluable lessons about determination, empathy, and the interconnectedness of humanity. Every blister, every sleepless night, and every hardship had contributed to a profound personal evolution. Rob's arrival in Hong Kong marked more than the completion of a physical journey, it was a triumph of the human spirit. He had traversed deserts, mountains, rivers, and urban landscapes, confronting extreme weather, isolation, and cultural barriers. Yet through it all, he had remained committed to his goal, demonstrating that with preparation, perseverance, and openness to experience, even the most daunting ambitions can be realized. His story quickly inspired countless others, motivating adventurers, students, and everyday individuals to step beyond their comfort zones and pursue their dreams with courage and resilience. In the months following his journey, Rob dedicated himself to sharing his experiences. Speaking engagements, documentary features, and written accounts allowed him to convey not just the physical aspects of his adventure, but the deeper lessons learned along the way. He emphasized that true adventure is as much about internal growth as external achievement. The journey had taught him patience, adaptability, and the immense value of human connection. Rob's story became a beacon of motivation, illustrating that ordinary individuals, when guided by passion and resilience, are capable of extraordinary feats. Ultimately, Rob Lilwall's walk from Mongolia to Hong Kong was more than an exploration of landscapes, it was a journey into the depths of human endurance, creativity, and empathy. It showed that challenges are opportunities for growth, that isolation can foster clarity and self-reliance, and that the kindness of strangers is a powerful reminder of our shared humanity. His story resonates because it demonstrates a universal truth. When one dares to pursue the extraordinary, the lessons learned and the transformations experienced are invaluable, shaping not just the individual, but inspiring everyone who hears of their journey. Rob returned home not as the same person who had left months earlier, but as a symbol of perseverance and courage. His story continues to inspire adventurers, dreamers, and anyone facing challenges, reminding them that with determination, resilience, and openness to the world, no journey is impossible. Rob Lilwall's walk home from Mongolia remains a testament to what humans can achieve when they push beyond fear, embrace uncertainty, and persist with unwavering resolve. Subscribe my channel.